If you look at a group of, look at the mammals.
But humans stopped evolving genetically because they evolved culturally.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, if you look at, the mammals,
right.
Many people know the word adaptive radiation. You've got some mammals that have adapted into flying like bats, others which have gone into swimming like dolphins.
Yeah.
Well, we've done almost nothing, If a Cro-Magnon man got next to you in the subway, particularly in New York, you wouldn't notice, This guy was around 100,000 years ago, and he'd feel quite much at home.
Yeah.
What has evolved are our machines and our tools. They've shown incredible adaptive radiation. We've stayed static.
Yeah.
But the products of our mind have evolved faster than anything else in living history. And that's what makes us different, is that we've transcended our genes. Our genes really have become more or less irrelevant. And that's why the different peoples of the world...
How can you say that? Our genes have become irrelevant.
Yeah, because we can evolve much more quickly through knowledge, learning, and culture than we can genetically. And, for example, let's think about the genetics of Europe. There's a recent paper on genetic differences in Europe. Now, Europe is an incredibly genetically homogeneous place. The genetic difference between a southern Italian and a Norwegian is almost zero.
Yeah,
now that somehow that has a resonance to me, given the different
Don't tell a southern Italian
or a Norwegian
a Norwegian that.
But, that has a resonance to me. That tells me something important about the human species, that we are different.
It tells you that we are different.
From any other animal.
Oh, because we're so similar.
That's right.
We're different because we're so similar.
That's right, yeah. We have not changed biologically. We are all one closely related species. We're all cousins under the sun.
But what's the breakthrough then? Back to the breakthrough.
Well, that came from rather recent work on looking at DNA sequences.
That we're so similar.
That we're so similar.
Yeah. Why the language of the genes? I mean, in a sense, there was a review of your book, and this was in the Financial Times in London, and it says, no, I guess it was the New Scientist, a grand tour of what genetics can and cannot tell us about ourselves and our evolutionary history. What can it tell us?
It tells us, the thing about genetics is it turns everybody into a living fossil, because we know, of course, that we have some fossils of human ancestors. But what we don't know, and we can never know, is that any one of those fossils left a descendant who's alive today.
Yeah.
It's a big problem with looking at fossils. The thing about looking at genes is that we contain within ourselves the entire record of our ancestry. So we can discover, by looking at our genes, who our ancestors were way back. And we find all kinds of remarkable things. We find, for example, in Europe, in spite of the fact that it's rather homogeneous, we find the records there of the invasion of the hunter-gatherers from the Middle East 10,000 years ago, and their passage across Europe. And you find little groups that remained isolated, like the Basques and the Sardinians, who are different.
I hate to come back to Mary, but I just want this last point. It is that I hear you, if I'm right. You're a geneticist. You are one who is unlocking the language of the genes for us, and they gave you the Science Award. But it seems to me that you step forward with and pay enormous credit to environment. You really do.
Sure. I think that's what genetics teaches you. It's that the environment that's important.
So understanding genetics teaches you the impact of environment.
Exactly.
Whereas Mary seems, who's not a geneticist, but a social scientist, sort of comes at genetics and saying it's much more important than the environment and all this environmental stuff.
Let me be perhaps a little
blunter,
a little kinder to Charles Murray. I mean, I say with really considerable confidence that his genetic arguments are wrong. Okay, that things are due to genetics. I'm not a social scientist. I'm an observer of social science. So it's you shouldn't take very seriously, I'm sure you don't, my views on society, on environment. The short answer
I don't even know them.
Yeah, the short answer is that neither of us really understands why there's poverty and richness, why some people are poor, why some people are criminals. I at least have the decency, perhaps, to admit that. I wish some other people would do the same thing.
I'm out of time, but answer this for me. What did you think of the Helen Fisher interview?
I thought that was a very good interview, but
I'm thrilled that you watch my interviews, but why was it interesting to you, if at all?
It was interesting to me because it partly answered the question. Okay, and it partly answered the question, because what she said about the horror of a mother killing her own children, how unnatural it seems, is quite correct. It's absolutely correct. Nobody will dispute that. But it illustrates the limits of biological arguments. It's a little known fact, but an embarrassing one, that male rapists have more children on the average than males who don't rape. Okay? Now, if you take a biological argument, it should pay all men to go out and be rapists.
Right.
That's the biological answer. If you want to spread your genes around, you go out and rape. Well, you don't, because society tells you you can't. So I think it's tremendously simplistic and dangerous to say that our fate is sealed by our genes, because it certainly is not.
Steve Jones, The Language of the Genes is the book. Thank you, Steve.
Thank
Great
you very
to meet
much.
you. Pleasure.
Thanks.
We
Thanks,
thank
Rod.
you for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you on Monday evening. See you then.